questions. So a couple of you guys, well quite a few of you guys actually, have been asking me what amps I'm using at the moment. So I'm just going to do go through a quick thing with my practice amp, which is a Roland Cube 30 bass amp. My main amp that I use for gigging and stuff like that is a Trace Elliott, but that's in the studio at the moment. One day I'll do a review of that for you guys. It's a good amp, but I've got a couple of issues with it, and I'll talk to you about them when we get the opportunity. Okay then, so first thing I want to say about this amp is you get a lot for your money, a hell of a lot for your money. I mean, it mimics seven, it's got this amp modelling thing on it, so it mimics seven types of other amp, and it does a pretty good job of them. I mean, having played through a lot of amps and a lot of different types of different sound, this little guy, I say little guy, it's bloody powerful for what it is. This little box, you know, I mean, look at the size of that thing. It's loud. It does a pretty good job of mimicking those other sounds. So we have, I think it doesn't actually say it here. I think that might be for legal reasons, but that TE is obviously Trace Elliott. B-Man, I believe, is Marshall. I think there's Fender in there as well somewhere. It does a pretty good job, especially with the Marshall sound, which is more of a rounder, less clinical sound than the Trace sound. Yeah, but I tend to play through the Trace sound on this anyway. If I take off the compression, I can live with that clinicness. That's not even a word, is it? I've just made up a word. Awesome. Okay, so we have your typical bass, your middle, your treble, and then we have some effects, and these effects are fun to play with. We have a chorus, and this knob obviously goes through each effect. So we have the chorus, we have the flanger, and we have the T-wah, which is a wah-wah, that gives you that wah-wah-wah type sound. Then we have delay reverb. Sorry, it's not focusing in. My camera's been I don't know what's wrong with it, man. It's just doing my head in lately. Hold 1 second. You're just not getting it, are you? Okay, anyway. So we have delay, and this is obviously delay, and then this is reverb here. An auxiliary in, your typical stuff, your recording out or your headphones, power, hold for a foot switch, your volume, your gain, and that is pretty much it. Oh, and over here you've got a shaped button, which determines a different shape of the sounds, and we have a compression knob. Okay, so let's just go through some of these sounds. You're not going to be able to hear really through the camera the differences between the modelled amp sounds. I mean, the Trace, clean, clinical. Take it to the Marshall, more rounder, used more for bluesy type stuff and, you know, rocky type stuff. Traces obviously does those as well, happily, but more of a compressed sound. I don't have any compression on. I'd hate compression. I always have done. Some people like it, some people don't like it. I just don't. I just think it takes the energy. I mean, I communicate so much through my fingers. I don't need this taking away what I'm saying, if you can understand that. It's quite a big thing for me, so that is always off. Okay, shape is an interesting button. So we have that. Touch the shape button. Just gives it more essence, okay? More tone, more shape. So I'll have that on if... See, I mix up these settings, so there'll be instances where you're going to have to play with the bass and the treble. So for example, if I'm going to be playing through the Marshall type sounds, I'm probably going to whack my bass up a little bit more, take my treble down a little bit. Because it depends what type of music I'm playing. You know, I'm going to change, consistently changing my settings when I'm playing through an amp, and the settings on my bass, just to fit what types of music I'm playing. So if I'm going to be playing through a Marshall, I'll be playing rockier, maybe bluesy type stuff, maybe even jazz. You know. So with that, I will be changing it. I'll probably put my bass up a little bit more to give it more low. Take the treble down. With the Trace, I'll most likely have the bass around about there. Treble will come down. So we don't need that sound cutting through too much, especially a trebly sound. with the trace, and that's something that it gives you brilliant lows, but it's a good thing about the trace really is it will also give you good highs as well. But the problem is you're in danger of having too much high and not enough low. So you've just got to keep an eye on that. So that's a pretty safe place to be. I normally have around about there. These other settings you're not going to really hear any real difference. Session, that's quite a nice low sound. I'm having to do this one-handed, sorry. But this is an interesting setting, Octave Bass. There's a video I did called Day of the Goat, and that was all done through Octave Bass. And what that does is it plays a note you're playing and then plays an octave beneath that as well on top of it. So you have this kind of really weird doubled sound. It's an interesting setting. You can do things with it. I like it. Okay, so yeah, that's what I used for that Day of the Goat video. That was cool. The next thing is the effects. We have the chorus. Okay, a chorus gives you a nice. Hear that? Good for tapping and stuff. Brilliant for bass chords. Amazing for bass chords. Gives you that kind of like spiritual. Sorry, excuse me. One hand again. It gives you that kind of like warm, round. I like to use the word spiritual, ethereal sound, lovely sound. A flanger, okay, a flanger gives you a watery sound in the realms of a wah, but not quite there. Again, good for doing like spiritually type things, chordy things. It's good for that. You can mix these effects up, so you can use something of the delay stroke reverb into the effects part, which is good. But as far as that's what it is. You have this kind of like level here which gives you an idea of how much you can use, how much of the effect you can use, but you can't mix them together like you can on some other, like my Korg Pandora. You can really mess with things and get in there. And lastly on this one is a wah wah. Gives you that wah wah sound. Great for funky stuff. Can't really hear it again, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just giving you a brief introduction to this amp. So yeah, wah wah. Let's turn all of that off. Go over to the delay. Obviously a delay will delay the sound like thus. Wow 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 wow. Again, awesome for tapping is the delay. Love it. Really good. And the reverb would obviously use some reverberation on your sound. Just gives it a little bit more similar to the chorus. Again, really good for the mellower types of music. I wouldn't recommend chorus or reverb in anything you're doing rocky. You want a straight bass sound for something like that. Again, obviously gain and volume down here, going to give us more gain and volume, and it really gives you gain and volume. This is such a loud amp. It really is. For what it is, it's loud. It's really loud. Not loud enough to keep up with my drummer, unfortunately, who is a stupidly loud drummer, and it distorts at high levels. Okay, so take that into account. I probably wouldn't recommend doing a gig with it. In fact, I definitely wouldn't recommend doing a gig with it. But obviously you can line out, mic it up to the PA, whatever. But as a practice amp, it's perfect. It's really cool, and I love it. And this is what I do. This is what I used to do all my videos now as well. All the later videos are all done through this. You can see where I've tried to badly take the sticker off here. If there's one thing I'm bad at life, it's taking stickers off things, because I always leave bits of the sticker around. I'm just no good at doing that. Yeah, that's grunge, man. Yeah, so that's it. That's pretty much just a really basic review of this great little amp. Would I recommend it? Yes, I would recommend it as a practice amp. Definitely, it will do you. You will be able to practice it in a band setting if your drummer isn't a loud drummer. I must say that my drummer is a particularly loud drummer and has a particularly loud drum kit. Okay, and it was and the acoustics of the place are a very small place. So take that into account. It didn't really have much chance. The guitarist was using a Marshall stack, so you know you can tell it was pushing, and at those high levels of volume and gain, there was distortion there. All right, not good distortion. Okay, so that's about it. Next on this one of my vlogs, I'll give you a introduction to my trace amp. If you want more details on this, I'll put a link below, and you can check it there. I'll probably try and fish out the cheapest price on Amazon for you guys. That's where I got it from, and as I said, for what you get, brilliant amp. Okay, take care guys, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.